It's becoming politics time as the November elections are getting close. There are mostly local races, but we will have an assembly race since Billy Jones stepped down. More on that later this week. But the campaigning is already gearing up for next year's election and its biggest prize, the governor of New York. We don't know for sure, but our Congresswoman Elise Stefanik sure is acting like she's going to run, crisscrossing the state and all that. And so is the current governor, who will be seeking another term. Kathy Hochul came into Stefanik's territory yesterday. Hochul in Plattsburgh on today's Story of the Day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Long Run Wealth, an SEC-registered investment advisor in Lake Placid, providing comprehensive wealth management, retirement, and financial planning solutions. LongRunWealth.com. And the Devlin Inn and Suites, Lake Placid, welcoming families, athletes, and groups to the Olympic Village, offering Adirondack mountain views and dog-friendly accommodations. TheDevlinNY.com.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Wednesday, September 10th. First up, federal officials arrested dozens of people at a food processing plant in central New York last week. As Jimmy Vielkind reports for the New York Public News Network, the raid has quickly become a flashpoint in the immigration debate.
Acting U.S. Attorney John Sarcone says immigration agents detained 57 people in Cayuga County. It's the largest workplace raid in the state this year, and he says there's more to come.
You can expect to see federal law enforcement at more work sites going forward. We owe it to the American people. We owe it to the citizens that reside in the Northern District of New York.
The Thursday morning raid captured nearly a third of the workers at Nutrition Bar Confections. Sarcone declined to say why the plant was targeted. Co-owner Jeff Schmidt says the employees worked hard. Witnesses say dozens of federal agents showed up around 9 in the morning. Kayla Kelechian is the upstate director of organizing for the New York Immigration Coalition. She rushed to the factory and found a chaotic scene.
People, community members, family members, crying, inconsolable, yelling out, like, where are you taking them? It was horrible. And
videos show masked federal agents walking on the factory floor and interviewing employees in English and Spanish. Harinka Zulchik is a legal representative for one of the workers who was detained. She shared the videos. Her client was quickly flown to Texas.
There's absolutely no due process going on here.
Sarcone says some workers waived their rights and have been deported. 5 people from Mexico and Guatemala face charges of illegally re-entering the U.S. after a prior deportation. None of the workers were charged with a violent crime, but Sarcone says being in the U.S. illegally is against the law, and he's enforcing it.
I have to do my job. I can't turn my back and say, I'm sorry.
Kelechian says the people are a valued part of the community.
These are vulnerable workers. They're working. They're contributing to the economy. These are families.
The plant is open again this week. In Albany, I'm Jimmy Vielkind for the New York Public News Network.
So our Champlain Valley reporter Kara Chapman followed along as Governor Kathy Hochul made 2 stops in Plattsburgh yesterday. She highlighted funding to support law enforcement efforts at the U.S.-Canada border, and she celebrated the return of production to a nearly shuttered bus factory. Here's Kara.
When Nova Bus announced plans to close its Plattsburgh plant 2 years ago, it sent shockwaves through the community. The company employed about 350 people and was an important customer for a number of smaller manufacturers in the area. North Country Chamber of Commerce President Gary Douglas says efforts to find another bus manufacturer began almost immediately.
Now let me note that such in-kind replacement is always the first aim when a major manufacturer announces they are departing. But it almost never happens.
Luckily for Plattsburgh, it did. Last November, Quebec-based school bus manufacturer Microbird announced plans to invest $38 million into taking over the Nova Bus site. Within 7 months of closing, production began. And on Tuesday, dozens of people, including Governor Kathy Hochul, gathered to celebrate the facility's grand opening.
This is a real shot in the arm for this area. This really is a shot in the arm and continues to foster that sense of pride and purpose that has defined this community for such a long time.
The Plattsburgh facility is Microbird's first U.S. manufacturing plant. Officials say it'll allow the company to enter the Buy America market and double its production capacity. The plant currently employs more than 225 people, with plans to grow that number to 350. They're focused on making small and medium-sized buses intended for public transit, assisted living, shuttle services, and tours. Eric Boulay is Microbird's president and CEO. He says a few key factors drew the company to Plattsburgh.
First, the availability of a qualified and talented workforce. Second, for the proximity of our headquarters in Drummondville. And finally, for the strong support of the entire business community here in the state of New York.
That support included $10 million in state tax credits and a $2.5 million state grant. Microbird's grand opening comes during a time of tension for the U.S.-Canada relationship. President Donald Trump's trade war with Canada and his rhetoric over making the country the 51st state has spurred a Canadian boycott of U.S. goods and travel. That's hit places like the North Country, which rely on Canadian tourism. Hochul says Microbird's grand opening demonstrates the strong ties between New York and its neighboring Canadian provinces.
Nothing happening in Washington can divide that common sense of purpose, the sharing of values, and really soulmates through our journey, because there's so many commonalities between our state and the provinces of Quebec and Ontario that we border over 450 miles with.
That border was the focus of Hochul's second Plattsburgh stop of the day. She visited the state police barracks to highlight recent state investments in northern border security enhancements. That includes $11 million over the last 2 years for additional personnel and technology like drones and UTVs. State Police Superintendent Stephen James says the northern border presents unique challenges from drugs, firearms trafficking, and human smuggling.
So with these new resources that you see here today, we are now better equipped to track cross-border criminal activity and share intelligence with our federal, state, and our local partners, and to disrupt the criminal networks before they can endanger other communities.
The governor took questions on the state of New York's prison system following an illegal strike by thousands of corrections officers earlier this year. It ended in March with the firing of about 2,000 COs. The National Guard continues to supplement prison staff across the state amid the ongoing CO shortage. Hochul says the state is drawing down Guard members, but can't leave any facility unprotected. She says it's important to train up new COs to replace the National Guard and increase the overall number of employees.
It's not overnight. It's not even in the next 6 months. It's going to take some time, but we're going to get it right. I'm committed to that.
Hochul's stops Tuesday took place in New York's 21st Congressional District, which is represented by her likely Republican opponent for re-election next year, Elise Stefanik. Last week, Stefanik called for the federal government to investigate how Hochul and her administration handled the CO strike. She claims the state directed prison superintendents to deem those on leave through the Family Medical Leave Act as absent without leave, or AWOL. The congresswoman says their firings violated federal law. Hochul says Stefanik is wrong and that her call for an investigation is a deflection.
It's just part of her game to deflect from her record, which, as I'm speaking to people on this visit, is abysmal. People worried about health care, worried about rural hospitals closing because of votes that she took. So I think she's got a lot more explaining to do, but this whole idea of deflecting and diverting attention, we're not buying it.
Stefanik has said she won't make an official decision about whether she's running for governor next year until after this November's elections. Kara Chapman, North Country Public Radio, Plattsburgh.
We have more news all the time on our website, ncpr.org. Music today by Christopher Watts of Canton and famous letter writer of Plattsburgh. I'm David Sommerstein, North Country Public Radio.